edition of the Game Plan live stream. Welcome in, everyone. We are going to do this a little bit different. Friday is usually our Game Plan live. Couldn't do that as I was driving across the great state of Kansas to get home, but I'm here now, and we can roll. And honestly, a little extra time, a little extra reflection goes a long way, and I think that's going to be the same case for the Chiefs. There's obviously other football going on today. Jackson Dart has stolen my heart already, so we'll cry about that later. But Chiefs, Bengals, it comes down to this. Number one thing is it's no more hero ball. It's got to be business, business, business. Yep. That's what it comes down to. If you guys saw our in-person rant the other day, we filmed that in West Kansas City. And so if you're not one of the members, go ahead and jump in there just for a month. You can get access to it. It's probably one of our better pieces, especially given that we are in the same room. But Dan has his points. I have mine. Together, it's kind of fun because it all comes down to this. Our bitching and ranting and getting prepared is all what comes here. Good morning, Brendan. Good morning, Jesus. Hope you guys are doing well. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy. This is RGR Football, where we talk Chiefs and the NFL. Lately, we've been talking a lot of pain in the Chiefs world. Is anything for this Saturday morning make you feel a little bit more optimistic, or anything more shining brightly that is like job number one for you?
Yeah, I think that this loss to the Raiders may have forced them to hit rock bottom and realize who they are, because it still continued to feel like they were trying to do more with the players that they had than they realistically could. And before you hit rock bottom and realize and come to terms with who you are, you continue to do the same things, right? The Chiefs have not found an identity in the run game. They have not found the best way to utilize their players and consistently get the most out of their offensive line, and it became predictable. The Raiders did a great job of saying, well, we know what you guys are going to do, so we're going to take a safety and then shove it down the line of scrimmage in the first couple of snaps as soon as we see anything that comes close to a run fit, a run look, and guess what? You're not going to be able to count for that guy. That happened multiple times where they have guys coming in, coming down. When you become that predictable to a Raiders team that, yes, they've played much better, but they don't have the talent on defense to be able to do what they did on Sunday, and they did it to you. That should force the Chiefs to hit rock bottom. Self-evaluate now needs to be the biggest priority. And I was listening to the Mina Kimes show with Mitchell Schwartz, where they talked specifically about things that we have been talking about for a while now. Get back to the basics. Get back to it. Like, this is what these next 2 weeks have to be. You have to get back to a consistent run game. When teams can't create explosive plays, when they can't throw the ball down the field, the only way that you can run an offense is to have an efficient, effective run game that corroborates and collaborates with your short to intermediate passing game. That's what they are. They're not a deep ball team. Last year, we have to drive the ball down the field. This year, they've been trying to force explosive into the offense because they don't know what else to do. So at the same time, like I'm excited about the optimism that the defense brings. This level of defense is exciting. They're really good. L'Jarius Sneed will be a topic of discussion for the next couple of days. We'll see what happens there. I'm going to assume he's not playing. You don't practice all week, you don't play in my mind. But when you can actually look in the mirror and say, well, the Raiders just basically dismantled us on offense. Took them until the fourth quarter to get going. If third quarter, fourth quarter, they're gonna have to do anything really. So while this pain this season for the Chiefs and us to having to watch and figure out what's going on with them has been terrible, it might be the best thing for them. We thought last year was the retooling year. They won a Super Bowl. Maybe they pushed it down the line. That's definitely what it feels like.
You know, I agree with you completely. They've been trying to force it, but for me, it's this stubbornness and it's a lack of foresight, because if you do the things that we're talking about, if you emphasize the run game, if you emphasize the quick pass game, that draws the defense down. It draws you. Sorry, Derek Lick. I just wanted to give you guys a little shine off the noggin today, so no hat. You force the defense into making the changes that you want them to make. You want to get single high. You want to get more man. Make them load the box. that brings guys down, and that gives you more opportunity to have that chunk play where someone breaks loose, or the coverage is just sustainable enough that you have enough speed with Watson and MVS. And now, as of 2 minutes ago, McCole Hardman has been reactivated. Yep. Now you can go attack that. But they have been too impatient. They have been too childlike in not being able to just do the things you need to do to set the foundation to be able to go over the top, because you don't have everybody scared as much. They can still do that. They can do that in this ball game. They can do that in the next. They can do it enough in these 2 games to set it up for the playoffs. Yes, I said playoffs. You just have to get that done. And for me, it's got to throw pride and consistency and stubbornness out the window. I'm all for being consistent. You have to be. But you have to be to the point that you're not predictable, as you said. If they can do that, then I think they still have an opportunity to get some of those chunk plays. And Derelict, love the avatar you use. That's awesome.
It's funny. I don't think that this team can consistently create explosives. We'll see what McCole Hardman brings back. That was one of the things that I actually was talking about on Twitter last night when I posted some things about the Bengals defense. They're one of the top defenses in terms of stacking the box. And when you do that, you do open up other players and other people, like last week against the Raiders on that fumble touchdown that the Chiefs had. You want to know what they had? They had big play central, but they muffled they muffled the snap. And when you don't execute, when you don't get back to the basics, like handing a football off or faking, when you're sitting back in the backfield and you're messing things around, putting Isaiah Pacheco as your quarterback and faking to Patrick Mahomes or trying to pass it to him so we can throw it down the field. That's not basics. That's trying to overcomplicate and create something that isn't there. When you this has to be very simple going forward the next 2 weeks to figure out what you do well, specifically in the run game. If you can find out what game, duo, run a duo a lot and just continue to pound it, find what works, whether it's inside zone, whether it's duo, something that allows the interior of this offensive line to do what they do best and get vertical push, and just let them not have to think so much, not have to worry about that. That will really get everyone playing a little more freely, but then you don't have to turn inside your own 20-yard line to having Isaiah Pacheco line up as your quarterback and fake stuff. Like, you don't need to do all this stuff. It's nice when the Chiefs are running and they're rolling and they're like, hey, let's bring out a trick play. That's fun. When you have to do it because you don't feel comfortable in your offense to create explosive plays, that's the problem.
Yeah. And I like the way that you're putting that, because you're laying it out there very specifically about what's too much. This is, again, another overcomplication. Yeah. I like Pacheco as a Wildcat quarterback. I love McKinnon as one, but do it with a simple run. Line it up in 13 personnel and bring 3 tight ends across the formation to clear out the other side. Run counter off of that. Run all the creative things you can do with a Wildcat. You don't have to run an RPO with a guy who doesn't run RPOs. That's the problem. If you simplify just that play, I think there's at least 3 or 4 runs you can get out of a Wildcat formation with honestly any of these backs, because as I understand, Clyde played a little quarterback in high school as well. So there's all these guys can handle the ball. They just don't need to throw it. They don't need to fake handoffs. They don't need to do all this crap. Just take the ball, get guys in front of you, and run downfield. It's that simple. I personally think somebody asked the other day, wham blocks from Noah Gray. I love the concept. I want to see them just take somebody young, maybe you let Donovan come in back at tackle and you let Wanya be a 6th offensive lineman and you wham block with him and you pull with him because he's a lot more nimble on his feet, right? Do something to change it up that doesn't involve making your specialists learn skills that they don't have and they don't practice week to week. That is the oversimplification that has to happen here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's again, we're just trying to figure out the best way to go about this. We've been talking about going back to the basics for weeks, and the Chiefs have kind of made things more complicated on themselves instead of trying to address the problem in the room. When you had injuries at wide receiver last week, when you had multiple people down, why were we seeing what we saw? Why wasn't it more simplified stuff? Like what makes them think that getting more complicated or trying to do different creative things like this is what you need, and just not being able to foresee a little bit that this is what you have. Like this is it. This is what you have. It's not getting better. McCole Hardman should add, a speed factor, a speed force to it. We've seen the jet sweeps go away completely from the offense in terms of getting the ball handed off to them. They've gone to the short screen passes, and I know everyone is harping on Matt Nagy's offense for this, and I got to that too. This is what Matt Nagy's always run. It's what he and Andy Reid built before Patrick Mahomes got here. And as much as they probably overdid it against the Raiders, it is still important to have that in the offense. You have to be able to have these West Coast offense tendencies a little bit to an extent to be able to still facilitate the run game at times when you are running the ball more effectively. Those plays, those little screens go for 10 plus yards. They do. But when you don't run the ball effectively, those screens, they get triggered on because there's zero threat to even create an RPO out of it. Like there's nothing. No one's ever worried about it. So it's kind of managing enough of that. And I do think that, again, after last week, that this week coming against the Bengals, even though their defense this season has not been very good, it's been one of the worst at giving up explosive plays. And I didn't expect to see that out of a Lou Anarumo defense, but they're going to bring their A game to Kansas City because it's the Chiefs, because it's Patrick Mahomes. And the Bengals run some of the most heavy boxes in the NFL. I believe let me pull this up real quick because I tweeted this out a few nights ago. Actually, I think it was last night. But yeah, they are, since week 10, they are first in their use of stacked boxes, which is 28% of the time they are in stacked boxes. Now, this Chiefs offense, this iteration of it would invite stacked boxes because they're not worried about the back end. I do think that McCole Hardman coming back changes the math on that a little bit, because if you load the box and you give him even a man coverage press look, you miss on that, Patrick's going to hit McCole. He and McCole still have a good working relationship of their deep ball. That's something that's not going to go away. So that's an element that I think they can exploit if the Bengals continue to do, like I said, these stacked boxes. They're 8th in man coverage use over the past since week 10, 33%. And they're 3rd in the use of single high safety looks since week 10 at 56%. Those all are things that should allow the Chiefs offense to excel in the passing game. But before they get ahead of themselves, they have to run the ball. This is going back to what Ryan's been talking about for years. This Chiefs team, this offense specifically, needs it more than any other offense they've ever had under Patrick Mahomes.
And not to double down on everything that I've been saying over the years, but everyone's been like, oh, you're an old man, you're crazy, they don't need to do that. The reason they needed to do it 3 years ago is so that it wasn't such a gear shift now. So you could just slide into more run heavy and not have to make such a drastic change to the way you go about practicing and planning and getting your linemen in particular ready. So that's why, not just because I'm crazy and I like it, but that's partly true as well. But there's a lot that goes into it to making yourself game plan proof. Like you always have to game plan, but you have to make it so that you're able to adapt more quickly than we've seen this team adapt. And I think that's been a change in the last couple of years that we've seen the staff get narrower and narrower in their game planning and get caught out of position when somebody throws something at them that they don't prepare for. They're not able to make as much adjustments. Yes, we know the playbook's this thick. You need to cut it down to here. You don't need to cut it down to here. And that's the difference that I think that's been going on. Matt Nagy has tendencies, yes. They're all Andy Reid-based tendencies. And I think what we're seeing a shift in is it's not that it's the Nagy offense. It's that he's got more of a voice, much like Eric Bieniemy did before, where you're seeing the shift to some of the gadgety stuff and those kind of things. Now, when he got here, and when he was coming back to Kansas City, I was telling you all to be excited because he's going to give you some nifty stuff, right? And if it's used as a change of pace, then that stuff works great. And his creativeness does work. But when it's all you have and you rely on it down after down, that's when stuff goes wrong. And that's where we're at right now. So again, this is all to wrap the whole point around, come back to the basics. And then your trick plays will work better. Come back to the basics, and then you can throw the ball deep where you want to because you're going to pull the defense to you. All these things go towards a game plan that actually fulfills what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's where they've gotten lost. Now, we know you guys have a ton of questions. We are going to get to them, but I just wanted to throw this out since we were talking receivers because Jesus asked a specific question. You have to take into account all the injuries both these guys have had. But in terms of when they both came out, McColl's a year older. He ran 4.33 in terms of flat-out speed. Kadarius is a 4.38 guy, same as L'Jarius Sneed. So both very fast, sub 4.4, but McColl is definitely faster. And that, again, is based on knee injuries as well. I would say that Kadarius has probably had more injuries that have maybe hurt his long speed than McColl has, because McColl's had a hand and a shoulder. It hasn't been the knee and hip type injuries we've seen Kadarius have.
Yeah, he's also one of the fastest 0 to 60 guys in the NFL. McColl Hardman is he gets up to speed as fast as just about anybody outside of Tyreek Hill. So it's a little bit different.
His 10 at the combine was a 1.54.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, that's almost Chris Johnson fast. That's how fast that is.
It's blazing.
It's crazy. Now, we're going to get to your questions. We're going to go through it. In fact, Adam just hit us with a super chat. Appreciate you, Adam. If you guys want to support the channel, I know it's post-Christmas, but there's deals to be had over on the RGR store. You can get the Chiefs Kingdom. You can get the gear that Dan's wearing. I have some new ones coming for you as well. But right now, everything is on sale, and there's a discount banner running. Just go to the RGR store. It's linked down here, and you can just search RGR store on Google, and it will get you there. Mm-hmm. But we also, now that I'm back in Colorado, have the chance to do something fun with our main guys, the guys that help us out. And we would appreciate if you guys wanted to get into daily fantasy sports. The easiest way to do it is Underdog and support the folks that support us, because right now you can get in on the mystery pick'em special. It is still running all regular season. Plus you can get a $100 deposit match. So if you drop $100 into your account after you sign up with our code RGR, you get that $100 deposit bonus. And pick'em's I think the most fun game, because they're going to give you simplicity. We're going to show you here in a second, and we'll go through a whole pick'em together. They're going to give you a number. You just choose whether it's higher or lower, and you make a simple decision based on that. If you're right and you string them together, you get paid out like gangbusters, and that's honestly what we're all here for, right? That's certainly my favorite part. So why don't I bring it up, and we will get over there, because I'm kind of intrigued. We've seen how the differences that what Dan's able to do and what I'm able to do have been here over the recent years. But on the Chiefs game specifically, we have 5 options, and that's what we like to do here. Is we like to roll 5. You can just pick 4, but we like to roll 5. Both quarterbacks, Joe Mixon and then Travis and Rashid. We don't have a running back, and that's because I think Vegas in particular and Underdog as well, they're not sure who's going to play. We're going to talk about the injuries to the guys here coming. Up in a minute. But this is a rivalry game. And as much as I want to start with Patrick Mahomes, I think we have to start with the opposing quarterback, because Jake Browning, I as well as he's been playing, and kudos to him for taking over for a guy like Joe Burrow, I don't think he's ready for this defense. I have trouble seeing him get to 16 fantasy points. That's multiple touchdowns, to be honest, without throwing a pick. And I do think he gives us a turnover this week. So for me, I'm feeling like I would take the lower. Where are you at on Jake Brown against this Chiefs defense?
So for me, it all hinges on L'Jarius Sneed playing this game, because I do believe that Jamar Chase is playing. As soon as I heard he was not playing last week, I knew exactly what that was for. He got a full practice in on Friday. He was going to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. That can be exploited. You've got T. Higgins back. You've got Jamar Chase. And regardless, their offense is going to want to throw the ball downfield. Specifically, this is going to look a lot like what the Bengals offense was a few years ago, where it's more boom or bust. It's not the little dink and dunk stuff down the field and still continuing down. If they do that, that's going to get them in trouble. That's where Jake Browning is going to not be able to fulfill that for you. But he's got guys he can just throw it up to. So I think I'm going to take the higher on this. And because every game that he's played in those last 3 weeks, he's gotten over 16 and 16.15 fantasy points, even against Minnesota, which loves to, what they've done this season has been fantastic, specifically in the back end, mixing up coverages, dropping 8 and getting after quarterbacks. So I would go higher on this myself, even with the interceptions.
I personally feel like Sneed is going to play. As much as I agree, usually you need to practice to play. I don't think Spags does. Spags kind of set that up earlier in the week that, we feel like he can walk out there and play. Like, I feel like that's what's going to happen. But
I hope so.
You are the fantasy guru, so I'm going to go with your gut over mine. So we're going to go higher for Jake Browning, and that means, well, 20 points for Patrick Mahomes. So clearly they have the quarterback duel going to Patrick as it should. The question is for me, just this number, this interception number that we see consistent. And that's probably the biggest negative. He has not gotten to this 20 fantasy point number. I think that gets corrected this week. I think Patrick hits the higher here, 20.15 with a couple of touchdowns and no picks this time.
I think it has to be, right? This is going to have to be getting the ship right. And again, rivalry games typically bring out the better in Patrick Mahomes. They typically do. And this is a game, regardless of whether Joe Burrow, is there or not, since he's not playing. It's a game that they want to win. And honestly, they got to win this football game. This right now is as close in the Chiefs season as a must win as it can get with their record right now. So yeah, I'm with you.
Agreed. Okay, so we have the quarterbacks done. Joe Mixon, I think in order to facilitate Jake Brown, I think you have to run Joe Mixon. I'm not sure he has to hit 10 points for them for him to be effective, and he has done that relatively. I don't think Pittsburgh's D is that great.
No.
And I expect them to be down. So I have trouble seeing this, except for the fact that last week they gave up 145 to a backup, and I think I would be remiss if I said take lower. I think he's probably going to hit this.
I'm with you. And plus, he's going to get those receptions. Like, he's going to get checked down. Like, those are going to happen.
And then that brings us, for the first time in Underdog Fantasy this season, Rashee Rice is slated to score more points, their line, than Travis Kelce. And that's my big question. Where does the balance go? We know that Lou's going to try to take away Travis. So that part makes sense to me. But having Rashee take up all the slack, and that's what this appears to me to be, like a projection that Rashee Rice is the number one target who gets things done. I mean, in order to score those points, that has to be a significant contribution.
Yeah, and last week he didn't get there, he didn't get in the end zone. That's been the big thing for him. He's gotten 12 targets, 9 targets and 10 targets. So the volume has been there for him to do that. And against this team, I don't know if Cam Taylor-Britt's playing. I know he was activated back to their roster this week, but I don't know if he's playing in this football game. That would definitely help the chances of keeping him lower than that number. But, I think right now the volume itself is enough to get him higher than that, specifically because he's been their end zone guy. He's been that guy for them. And he's been the one that's been able to do that this season. So, specifically at the wide receiver position. So I just, at this point, I'm kind of erring on the side of it has to be higher because he's the guy.
If that is the case, then I would say that we have the guy who has to give up those touches and will get all the attention is going to be Travis Kelce. And I think 12.5, when he hasn't come close to that, even against Buffalo, I got to take the lower here.
I know.
This is not love. This is not support. This is just trying to make the right conclusion.
It's just what it is. This is what teams are doing. Stop Travis Kelce, force everyone else to beat you. It's just what it is.
Agreed. Okay, so it looks like we have all 5. Looks like they're getting us. I like round numbers, so we're going to go 55 on this one and get close. I'm not sure why these numbers have changed.
It's all weird right now.
It should be an even number, but it is what it is. So we're going to go for the gusto, and we're in like Flynn. There we go, folks. Welcome aboard. We'll have the results for you following next week as we get the results from the ball game. Red, hope you're doing well. Welcome to the chat. Hope you guys are enjoying hanging out. I know it's a weird Saturday afternoon, but that's the way that we roll here. We're going to get to your questions here, but please, if you want to get in and do what we just did, whether it's the Chiefs game or any other game, check out Underdog Fantasy. We would appreciate it. Every time you get involved with our code RGR, they support us a little bit more. So support the folks that support us, and you are supporting us. We very much appreciate it. And, might as well get off on a good start for New Year's, right? That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Now,
question-wise, we got to get a little bit, right?
Right? Hey, I'm due at this point. I was so close the last time. I was a little bit mad. Brandon, what do you think? What do you think if we can't get Clyde and Pacheco tomorrow? I think you're going to get one. Clyde was out with an illness, so I'm not really too concerned that he won't be available at all. I don't know if he'll be 100%, but you have P. Ryan, who I'm still intrigued by, and you have Prince, who we haven't seen in quite a while. And I'm up for a check-in on just what his progress has been. How do you feel, Dan?
Sure. I mean, he's going to be elevated, correct? Like he's going to be up regardless, specifically because even if you have both of them, which I don't think is out of the question at all. I think both Clyde and Pacheco are fair game to play in this, and I think Pacheco is going to push to play. If I'm not mistaken, he did clear the concussion protocol, correct? That has been
That's my understanding.
just my understanding. So I do think he's going to play. I think Clyde's going to be, IV hook all weekend. He's going to be ready to go, and I think you should still probably get those to a couple of snaps here and there just to see again what, like I said, what they can provide. Because at the end of the day, there's one player right now with Jerick McKinnon out that can provide some semblance of pass protection consistently. And for everything Isaiah Pacheco is, he's very inconsistent in pass protection. So Clyde's the guy for that, and even he's more of a I have to kind of chip help. Like they don't have a legitimate pass protection back. So you can rotate them in and get as much use out of them as you can. Keep everyone fresh. Hopefully, Pacheco and Clyde are good to go tomorrow.
I hope so as well. I'm hoping that's kind of the linchpin. They can still get things done. It is, let's be real, not an offense that requires the running backs to be creative. They have to follow their blocks and hit the holes. That's what they have to do. Any back can do that in this offense. It is inside-outside zone for the most part. If they get Dan's way and they run duo, yes, you get a little bit more freedom of how to attack that hole, angles, and how you're going to try to take on those linebackers. But I feel good about both those guys in terms of their overall ability. I just don't know where Prince is at. I think P. Ryan can carry the load if he needs to. Happy Red Saturday, Patrick. Appreciate you. I'll be at the game tomorrow. Hope to bring some good luck. I hope that you do too. I got my fingers crossed. What are some of the biggest things you guys are watching for against the Bengals? Number one thing for me is Wanya Morris. How do they choose to attack him? Is it just Hendrickson? Do they try to give him a two-way go? My guess is they might put Hendrickson out wide a little bit, bring a linebacker, walk him up into that B gap, and make Wanya have to deal with both or rely on a chip. That's where I think just a slight hesitation might be enough to get them a win in the pass rush situations.
He's going to be lined up against, like I said, against Trey Hendrickson. Speed off the edge has not been his friend because he's quite often late out of his stance. And the one that we saw Kuntz just run by Wanya Morris is because he was not out of his stance. He did not move. He just stood there. That it really has been the one thing holding him back. Like he's gotten beat a couple times, but most things you see him fight back and he's been better up and down. But that consistent lack of getting out of his stance is really starting to hurt right now. This is going back to basics. You know the snap count. You should be able to jump. Jawan Taylor times this on purpose because
you can even out Jawan Taylor and Wanya Morris. You'd have the perfect pass at every damn time.
Like you have it there. You have the precedent set. You practice with this guy every single day. This should not happen for him at this point in the season. Now he's going to his fourth start. This has to change a little bit. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm watching for is the mistakes. It's been part of what they've done, but every single time one of their plays hasn't gone their way, it's because of a mistake here and there. It's because of a penalty. It's because of a drop. It's just every single thing. Are we going to like this is just going to be the name of the game for the Chiefs this season? I don't want it to be. I acknowledge, that they are going to be able. They're not going to be able to get over themselves and another team in the playoffs. You can't beat yourself and the opponent every single playoff game. It's not possible. So there's got to be some semblance of a way to get out of this rut that they're in. And I'm just interested to see how they handle it. If it really was rock bottom for them against the Raiders. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that will keep this team from winning playoff games is themselves. That's it. If they can get out of their way one game at a time, they'll be able to win. It's just more about how do they handle that? What basics do we see? How do they handle Lou Anarumo's style? Because he's, again, done a very good job against the Chiefs in the past. How are they going to adjust to that? They've got more film on that. So I'm interested to see what they do there.
I agree. Adam, thanks for the patience and thank you for the support, pal. Nice to see you. Did we make a mistake in letting Amir Smith-Marset go after he looked so good in preseason? I mean, he certainly has improved from what we saw in preseason, but that's all you can do. In retrospect, maybe you would have kept him, but there's no way to know that at the time. And quite frankly, what he's doing in the offense he's in, I think, is probably different than he would have been able to do in this offense. So I do think there is a cerebral portion to it that we can't really evaluate because it's not on the field. So yes, he has gone on to some success, and maybe you rethink that. But at the time, I think they did what was probably the right thing in making the selection they did.
Yeah, he's just now getting on the field for a team devoid of talent, much like the Chiefs are at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Granted, they've had a blow up from Chark the past week and some good things and up and down things out of their second round pick in Mingo. And, Adam Thielen is starting to do what most older wide receivers do, start to go downhill at the end
Slow down.
because he's exhausted. He was handling the majority of the work. So
He looks like I feel.
right. I can't imagine how these older players feel, man. Like he's
Right.
like Travis. I know everyone's talking about the down year for Travis. He's injured more than he's ever been, and he's exhausted. Like he's had to shoulder the bulk of the offensive production for this team. Now you have Rashee Rice helping him out, but it's been him. He's having to deal with doubles. He's having to deal with physicality more than anybody else is. So I can't even imagine how he's got to feel at this point.
And shout out to his trainer for coming into his defense a little bit about the Taylor thing and reminding us all that, hey, we're worried about Travis having to miss the season when he hyperextended his knee a couple days before the first game. And he missed one game and has rolled. There's pain management. There's a lot going on behind the scenes just to get him ready for war every week. So I like to see guys who know actually poke their head up every now and then and make a difference. So kudos to him. Thanks, Adam. If we lose this one, we shouldn't be in the playoffs. 30, that's a fair estimate. I will agree with that.
Yeah, it's fair.
Jacob, did you see Higgins' interview? He talked very glowingly of Kansas City. Sounded like a man who wants to come to KC. Thoughts on him or trade for Ayuk? They will never trade Ayuk. They're going to have to pay Debo again. And that may be something that becomes a problem in San Francisco. There's no way they're walking away from Ayuk. I'm not sure who gets their next contract first, but whoever it is, they're not getting rid of either of them because that's the safety net for the other dude, right? So I don't think you can get him away from the Niners. But I mean, if T. Higgins wants to take a reasonable contract, I can dig it. I'd love to see him in this offense. I think that he can be, what allows Pat to go back to what Pat wants to do and taking those shots that maybe he needs a little bit more help on. Again, as we talked about last week, Patrick this week needs to make sure he's delivering the ball to the receiver. Just put it on his numbers. Don't ask him to reach behind them. Don't ask him to adjust or throttle his route. These guys can't do it. Just play basic ball and throw it right to him. It's a dumbing down again, but it's what has to happen. I don't think he'd have to do that with Higgins. But there's also a factor too, and I want your opinion on this. If I'm T. Higgins, unlike Jamar Chase, I'm not going to talk trash to the defense, especially if I might not have Jamar with me and I might have to be the guy. I'm going to be pretty nice and try to keep everybody, mellow and not pissed off at me.
Yeah, he wants everyone else to see that he's good in front of the camera too. This is an audition for him too. He's trying to get paid, and the Bengals are probably not paying him with Joe Burrow and then Jamar Chase. Typically, they don't pay their stars anyway. Like that's historically been a thing where the Bengals don't just shell out hands full of cash. Like they're going to have to with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. They have to. So he's auditioning for everybody. He's going to be professional. He's going to be well spoken. He's also missed quite a bit of the season with injuries, like every now and then. Last year, a couple of nicks and bruises too. Like he's trying to just be the professional. And I got no problems with T. Higgins. I think he's a stand-up guy. My problems lie more on the other side with a guy who's been hurt the last couple of weeks and who, again, continues to think that he's the one that just came off a Super Bowl win in Jamar Chase, who just continues to talk and talk and talk. Yeah. Like he's a great player. He has every right to talk, but like read the room a little bit. Read just a little bit. He's going up against probably the best defense the best defense the Chiefs have ever had under Patrick Mahomes. And they've done nothing but shut down pretty much with number one. So I'm excited. I want L'Jarius Sneed to play because I would love to see that battle. Two injured guys, two injured stars this season, and Jamar Chase and L'Jarius Sneed going at it, that'd be a lot of fun. But I got to understand where your bread's buttered at this point. And Jamar Chase coming off of a game he didn't play, and just let your play do the talking sometimes. I feel like that would just serve everybody well.
I'm just waiting for some little staffer in the Bengals PR department to be like, tugging on his shoulder. Hey, dude, your national championship was 4 seasons ago. Chill. Right. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. Abel, do you see them getting to the Super Bowl? I definitely see a path for them to get there for sure. And I think, unfortunately, I don't think it's beating the Baltimore Ravens head to head. I think there are other teams that have explosive offenses, particularly the Miami Dolphins, that might be able to knock the Ravens out for you. And then you obviously have different matchups. I do think there is a way for them to still make it. They have to, number one, and this is my number one goal for this week, and honestly for every week from here on out, don't give the ball away. You have to cut that out. Hold on to the damn thing. Don't throw it errantly. Patrick, take sacks if you have to, but throw the damn thing out of bounds. Stop waiting. 5.3 in the play to deliver ball. Nothing good is going to happen. It's like that old saying, right? I tell my kids, nothing good happens after midnight when you're in high school, right? So after 4 seconds, have the ball out. Honestly, I think tempo is the number one thing here to correct that, and I think that's probably the direction we're going to see him go.
Man.
You don't think so?
They're 32nd in the league and up, in tempo offense. They just don't do it. Like we're talking about 1% of the time. They just don't do it. So it would create a consistent need to keep everything simpler, which the Chiefs desperately need. And like you're talking with Patrick, throwing it into space instead of at the player. We can't do this anymore. Like we can't do it. You're going to, I know it's tough. And I understand you play the game the way that you think it should be played and how it should be played. But you have to know the situation. You have to know it. You have to read the room. This wide receiver room, they can't see what you see. They can't do it. No matter how hard you throw the ball in an area for them to catch it, they can't see what they have to do in the game. The game moves too fast for them. It's just too fast. So it's you might have to slow down the process on your end just a little bit. Get to your drop. All right, go through my read one. Is he there? Boom. If he's not, all right, where's my second read? No, not there. Maybe take off.
Yeah, go.
Maybe
3 yards and call it done.
Different. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Oregon, do you guys think that Andy can go against everything in his core and dumb this thing down to the basics, or can he just not help himself? He can. My example game is always that downpour in Buffalo in Clyde's rookie season, where they gave him the ball like 28 times or whatever it was. Like, if necessities call for it and there's no other option, he can do it. It's just getting the trigger to click so that he does. And that's what I don't know where that pressure point is.
They also, Sean McDermott was like inviting the run. They had like light boxes all game. And it was a weather game. It felt like the offensive line was ready to come out and actually hit people. This offensive line this year does not feel that way. It feels like they don't want to come out and hit people. Like they had to get yelled at by Patrick on the sideline to just get a couple plays where they came out firing off the ball. If you have to do that at week 16, I don't know what it's going to take. Like I think that they just need Andy Heck this entire week to just get in there. Get in their faces. This whole week should have been one of the toughest practices mentally and maybe even physically, yelling at them all week to get them prepared for what they have to do. Because right now, this has been the trajectory of the offensive line over the last 3 weeks. You've had some ups and downs, but predominantly it's gone down. It's gone down. Yeah. And you can't have that when you're driving towards the playoffs, towards the postseason. And you got to win out right now. Or not win out. You have to win one game. Raiders can still win the AFC West.
Yeah.
Funny enough.
Yeah. I don't even want to talk about that right now. Casey Forever, hope you're having great holidays, and all of Chiefs Kingdom and RGR family. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. And I hope you are as well. Gold Town, nice to see you back. And appreciate the support. Set my expectations, first round exit. Anything beyond is gravy. Never thought they could have a number 2 scoring defense with Mahomes and not be assured a ring. I know that's the craziest part, to have the defense bow up this much and not be able to have the offense take advantage of it. It's criminal at this point. But I like the way you're thinking, Goldtown. Expect a first round. Expect the division win and the playoffs. Expect a loss and be happy when they win. I expect them to win the first playoff game that they're in. After that, it's going to have to be matchup based, in my opinion.
Yep. I'm with you.
Oregon would love to see McCole get 4 or 5 deep balls, and it does look like they removed the injury designation completely, so he will play.
Yep.
I think that's too much myself. Where are you at?
I would like one to start. Like, give me one, but find a way to get it so you actually get a good look at it. Like, you have to have the time to throw the deep ball. You can't just sit back there and chuck it up and hope he can run under it. That's not going to work. You need the time. You have to get the call. You have to get the protection correct. The offensive line needs to do their job. Patrick needs to do his job. McCole needs to do his job. Those are things that have not gone right on their deep balls all season. So while I'm sitting here, with my fingers crossed, like, hopefully they can do that. We have ample evidence to suggest it's not going to do it. So just throwing up 4 to 5 deep balls a game at McColl's direction is just as bad as throwing it to MVS when he is wide open, but you throw it to a spot he's supposed to run to and he's not doing it. Like, it doesn't really help.
I mean, if you got 2 shots, maybe 3, I could go for it, because that means you're buckling down and you're running enough. You're keeping it short enough to give yourself that extra space by making the defense protect short, even if it's just subconscious. Even if that deep safety's first instinct is to take a step forward rather than stay flat-footed, that's a success you can build on, and that's where I would like to see it go. Thanks, Oregon. Preachers, the pick was on Mahomes on review. No pressure. Ross was the best choice. What do you guys say? I don't know about Ross being the best choice, but
so we talked about this actually on the members stream, Preachers, specifically. Yeah. This was the curl corner route, and it's only that way because the cornerback drove on the football. If the actual play goes the way it's supposed to go, and Patrick maybe looks to Ross first, that outside corner that's on top of Justin Watson falls off of him to Ross, and then it's an interception if you throw it to him. Like, that's the main thing here, is that the corner was watching Mahomes' eyes. If he looks to Ross, he's going to jump the route on Ross, and you're going to have Watson open. So that not necessarily all on Mahomes. The throw was a little bit on Mahomes because it didn't get there in enough time, and a little bit because at the top of his route, Justin Watson just was a little bit lazy at it. Like, it was just lazy. I've seen that route combination a ton. They're not asked to come back to the football on that corner and curl. They're not. That's not what it's for. It's for different plays, and we've seen those rollouts where it's just a little curl hitch at the top, and you stop and you kind of fade to the boundary. He got lazy out of his top. That's why he was drifting back. There was no, I need to go sell the go route and then really break down. It was just more of a at the top. So lots of things went wrong on that play. Lots of them.
I'm gonna let you take this one. I have to go check in on a child here real quick.
Do it. All right. So yeah, I that's just my 2 cents on the topic. Preachers, not trying to call you out, but I've seen a lot of people talk about this over the week, and I just disagree with it. Excuse me. Marshall, thank you for the super chats. Chiefs just activated running back Keontae Murray. That's an interesting, or Keontae Ingram, not Murray. Keontae Ingram. Interesting. That's in. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. Maybe they see him as a better pass catcher because he's not a good pass protector. That's, in my opinion, very evident as to why he got cut and why Amari DeMarcado was playing in front of him in Arizona. But it looks like they ran out of elevations for Pirine and Prince. But I think Pirine's on the active roster, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they just ran out of the elevations for Prince and decided to bring up Keontae Ingram. So that's at least something. Maybe he gets a few passing snaps every now and then because he was a good pass catcher, but just not a great runner in my opinion. But we'll see. Maybe something comes out of it. But appreciate you keeping us updated on that. We'll have to let Ryan know when he comes back in. Again, thank you for another super chat, Marshall. Is KT injuries the real reason he's been out? I think at this point, yes. I think at this point, a couple of weeks now, yes, he's actually injured. Something's going on. 1 week I would have been more on the edge of no. He's probably more of the getting benched in a small way kind of thing. And for everyone coming in right now, Ryan is taking care of something on his end. He'll be right back whenever he's done dealing with it and doing that. So yeah, I think KT's actually got an injury right now, and that's why we're seeing him not play this week. So that's unfortunate. Appreciate the super chat, man. Go for KC. Thank you for your super chat. Appreciate the support. Thanks for the great information. I hope you are having a great holidays. You as well. You and your family, everyone. Hopefully, you guys had a great Christmas season, and we got New Year's coming up already here. 2024 on its way. Insane. I also wish Chiefs Kingdom are having a great holidays. Also, hoping for a win. Go Chiefs. Love it. Again, hats off to everybody for being here. 260 you on a Saturday. I love seeing that come out for just talking about the Chiefs versus the Bengals after everything we've seen this season go the opposite way. So hopefully you and your family as well go for Casey. Had a great holiday season and continues into 2024. Appreciate the support and the comments. Thank you. Oregon, thank you. I'm guessing that fixing the wide receiver room is already in the works behind the scenes at One Arrowhead Drive. I mean, as much as they possibly can, I would think that they're doing what they can to get everything set for this offseason, because they made a collective bet on this and it didn't work out. So yeah, I think that they have to recreate the wide receiver room. You might see 4 different receivers in there that weren't there last year. I would not be opposed to that. You're going to see at least 1 or 2 draft picks in that wide receiver room. They're probably heavy duty getting into the scouting, much like I am, trying to get as much as the wide receiver room as I can. But yeah, I don't disagree at all. They're definitely working on something. We absolutely will get to a score prediction, Chef Boy. Don't worry about that. We're gonna get there, and I would imagine that's supposed to say Chief Boy, but maybe I'm wrong. Regardless, when Ryan gets back in here in a second, we will probably get to our keys for the game as well as the score predictions. Booyah.
Yeah, I think we'll jump there real quick. I got an injured kid at practice, so I'm gonna have to take off
Okay.
for a second.
Well, I gotta go.
But I think we discussed a lot of the keys as well. But to finish Scott's question, will Travis get 1,000? Will Bryce beat Bo's record? And will Furious get to 10 sacks? Just shotgun. What do you feel like?
No. I don't think he's gonna get there. He's also been trending down in his win percentage over the past couple of weeks, and that's kind of how it felt like it was going to go. Like, he had a good beginning of the season, and then lately the Chiefs have been doing a pretty good job of kind of mixing up their pass rush, and Chris has been taking over and getting quick pressure, which is why we're not seeing a ton from Furious George. As the postseason's got here, Chris Jones has gotten quicker pressures, and we're seeing that impact everyone else. So he and Charles Omenihu have kind of gone up, and George has come down a little bit, which is what my expectation was.
That's fair. As far as Trav, I mean, he's at 968. He'll get it.
Yeah, he'll get there.
It won't be a problem.
I
do feel like Rashee Rice has a shot to break Bo's record. I don't remember the exact number, but he's sitting at 8-11.
Okay.
8-11 and 7 touchdowns. I think 8 is the record, so I think he at least ties.
He's got 8. I know he has 8.
Oh, does he?
I'm positive.
Okay, I think ESPN lists him as 7, but that's cool.
Yeah.
If he does, then that's great. And I want to say George can get there, but I agree with you. It's a little bit.
It's tough. Like, I'd love for him to get there, but I think right now, Chris and Omenihu are just doing a good job of getting pressures and turning them into sacks a little bit better. So that's all it is.
Well, he according to ESPN, he's at 9. He just needs 1 more.
Oh, is he? I thought he was a little bit. I thought he was at 8.
I just pulled him up. It looks like he's at 9. You know, and like you said, with Omenihu and Jones flushing one side, especially when they let Omenihu roam and really attack from the outer shoulder of the tackle, I think you might get some blowback. I'm gonna change that, Scott. And I'm gonna say that George does get 10. Which, if you guys remember, When they drafted him, I said anytime he got double digits, I was going to be ecstatic, and I will be ecstatic.
Yeah, no, he does say here he's got 9. He's got 1 sack in the last month, though, so that's something to monitor going forward.
Agreed.
Yeah, I do think at this point I'll say he gets the 10. Yeah, I'll change my opinion on that.
Fair enough. Okay. Any other keys that we didn't get to? I do want to be complete.
Yeah. The defensive side, we barely talked about it. We know the offense has been the majority of the talking points, but back to the pressure. Chris Jones has been kicking it up. Hugh's been kicking it up. I think that Mike Dana is still playing really good football, and this is kind of a challenge to George Karlaftis. One sack in the last month. Like, we got to start seeing some pressure down the stretch here. The Chiefs just waived Matt Dickerson for McCole Hardman. I just saw that. So he's not here. Mike Pennell has been brought up once again. So weird stuff happening on the defensive line, continuing to happen. But George Karlaftis, I got to see a little bit more down the stretch here. Like, you're second-year player. I know sophomore slumps happen, but you're having a better year this year in terms of pressures, sacks than you ever had, that you had last year, even in college, in my opinion. So this is kind of aimed at him, but it's everybody too. This is Jake Browning. All right. He's had a good start. He's done a really good job for this team. He turned the ball over 3 times against the Steelers last week. You can get to this guy.
Yes, you can.
I want to see George Karlaftis whoop up on Orlando Brown Jr. I want to see him lined up a couple times on Orlando Brown. I want to see Chris Jones lined up on Orlando Brown. I want to see every single player lined up on him at least a couple times. I want to see that. But also, where was the right tackle? Jonah Williams?
Yeah.
Has not been very good.
No.
Chris Jones is going to eat him alive this week. It's about getting after him, turning the ball over. They were able to shut down Aiden O'Connell quickly in the second half. Actually, from the second quarter on, 0 completions. You're not going to have the exact same success, but you can get after them, this team, with that offensive line. It's time to continue to ramp up the pressure. My long way of saying, getting hits on the quarterback. Big theme for this game, to not let him throw the ball down to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd.
And I hinted about this earlier in the week, and Jesus, you brought it back up. Is FAU a bust? FAU has not hit the ground running. We told you he was not prepared. Neither of us had him as a first-round pick. Like, they had to take him because he was the best available position of need. That's why. I will not call him a bust. If he goes next season without any significant contribution, then I will. But for right now, I theorized earlier in this week is, if you're going to get going, what does Orlando have that you have to combat? It's his reach. FAU has the longest reach. I do believe he's a 1/4 inch longer than Charles Omenihu. So if there's one game that he can use his best tool, and that is widening out, lining up wide, and attacking the outside shoulder with length, that's the 2 things that can hurt Orlando Brown. This could be the game that you set him loose.
And speed. And he can get off the ball. He's the fastest get off on the team, too, outside of Chris Jones. Like, we're talking about speed around the edge. You might see a couple snaps this game.
I hope so. He only got 4 snaps last week, and I think they need to pepper him in earlier to try to do exactly that. 5-man rushes, I think, are going to be important, whether it's blitz or whether it's lining 5 dudes up. I can double up on the right-hand side of the defense and really attack Orlando. That'll make me just punch. Callie, thanks for the super chat, buddy. How much of the blame in the offense do you place on Pat? It's a fair point.
It's a fair point.
It's more than nothing. I'll tell you that. Is it as much as 20%?
I would say 12. I would give him 12% of the blame this season. Everywhere else there's been tons more, but he's had his fair share. And I think 12 is more than fair for a guy who's typically the reason they're doing as well as they are.
I'll put it at 20 because he ought to know better on some of the turnovers. So you take that off, you can sustain everything else that is a problem, but that's where I'd put it, Callie. And hope you're doing well. Hope you're back home and feeling good there, Callie. Nice to see it. And for those of you that follow people on Twitter, just got like some, like, I don't know, little icons from L'Jarius Sneed. Looks like some girls dancing.
Oh, okay.
Makes me feel like, hey, there's a possibility Jamar ain't going to get a free ride. You're going to get Sneed up in your face all day long, and I'm good with that.
Man in lotus position is what that says.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was 12 Maids of Dancing or whatever that is from the Christmas song.
I don't know.
Okay,
That's
well
weird.
I don't know. I have trouble breaking down icon or emoji only tweets. So
All
we'll see
right,
what
let's go
happens.
ahead and get these predictions so you can get out of here and take care of your kids.
Okay. I'll be easy. If this doesn't happen, they're screwed. So I think the urgency is there. Sorry, YOLO. I got going. She's got ice on. I'm gonna be all right. They got to have the urgency. They got to get it done. I think in the end they do pull it out, but I think it's low and mean. I think it's 21-17.
Yeah, I'm not that far away from you. I think it's going to be 2014. I don't think we're going to see a ton in this game scoring wise, but you get a couple of field goals from Butker and you win it close to the end.
Okay, I'm with you. Last super chat, and I'm out the door. Where was I deception against the greedy LVDBs? Deception goes out the window when you're scrambling to try to find somebody to complete a ball to. That's an early down thing, and again, why they have to hit it with tempo. And I think that's still part of the process. All right, thank you all for being with us on a Saturday. Enjoy the rest of this prep for tomorrow's game. We'll be after the ball game. We'll be live. Thanks for your time, and I'm going to hit the road.
All right, man. You guys have a great rest of your day today. Enjoy some college football, and we'll see you tomorrow after the game for the hopeful celebration of the Chiefs locking up the 3 seed.
Knock on wood. All right, have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow.